Today, we're diving into the story of Cambodia, and it's a story that feels almost impossible because it holds two extremes smashed together, one of history's most incredible civilizations and one of its most horrific tragedies. It is a story of unbelievable contrasts.
So on one side, you have this civilization that built wonders, truly wonders, that touched the heavens. And on the other, a genocide that represents one of the absolute darkest moments for humanity. And the real question here is, how? How can both of these truths exist in the story of just one country?
Okay, so to really get a grip on modern Cambodia, we have to go way back to its glorious peak, an era when the Khmer Empire was an undisputed superpower, a fact that, honestly, is way too often forgotten today.
You really can't overstate what they accomplished. We're talking about Angkor Wat, which is still the largest religious complex ever built, anywhere. They engineered these brilliant water management systems centuries ahead of their time that supported huge populations in cities that made places like medieval London or Paris look tiny.
At its peak, the city of Angkor was this sprawling metropolis, home to almost 1 million people. And then, poof, it was just abandoned, left for the jungle to completely swallow it whole. Can you imagine a city the size of modern-day San Francisco just vanishing from the map?
So that's the big question, right? What on earth could cause an empire that powerful, that sophisticated, to collapse so completely that they just walk away from their own capital city?
Well, historians think it was basically a perfect storm of disasters. You had catastrophic climate change, bringing both devastating droughts and massive floods. The royal court was totally consumed by infighting and power struggles, and on top of that, constant wars with their neighbors were just bleeding the empire dry. It was this slow, agonizing decline that just ended in total collapse.
So after the empire falls, centuries of decline followed. This led to foreign rule and eventually a descent into a kind of madness that absolutely no one could have seen coming.
So after 90 years as a French colony, Cambodia finally gets its independence in 1953. But this newfound freedom was, super fragile. It gets caught right in the crossfire of the Vietnam War happening next door. American bombing campaigns, Vietnamese incursions, it all destabilized the country and created the perfect breeding ground for extremism.
And that extremism had a name, the Khmer Rouge. Led by this guy named Pol Pot, they were a radical communist movement with a terrifyingly simple vision: to wipe the entire slate clean, restart civilization from year zero, and create a perfect, peasant-based society.
And their plan. This wasn't just a political takeover. This was the complete and total dismantling of society itself. Cities were forcibly emptied, literally overnight. Money was abolished. Family bonds were systematically broken. Any piece of the old world, from religion to education, was targeted for utter destruction.
You can probably guess where this is going. This so-called utopian vision, it's spiraled into an absolute nightmare. The Khmer Rouge's plan required them to eliminate anyone who could possibly challenge it. And that led to one of the most horrific genocides of the 20th century.
Just think about the brutal logic here for a second. The regime was so paranoid, so anti-intellectual, that simply wearing eyeglasses could be a death sentence. Why? Well, because it suggested you could read. It suggested you might be able to think for yourself. And to the Khmer Rouge, that was the ultimate threat. And the cruelty? It was matched by this chilling practical evil. The regime decided it didn't want to waste bullets on its own people. So countless victims of the killing fields were bludgeoned to death with whatever was nearby: shovels, axe handles, you name it.
So what was the result of all this? In just under 4 years, an estimated 2 million people were killed. Just let that number sink in. 2 million.
And 2 million. It's a number so big, it's hard to wrap your head around. So let's put it this way. That was roughly a quarter of Cambodia's entire population. Imagine that. 1 in every 4 men, women, and children in the whole country gone. Killed by execution, starvation, or being worked to death. An entire generation was nearly wiped off the map.
The Khmer Rouge were finally overthrown in 1979. But how does a country even begin to recover from a trauma that massive? Where do you even start? The story of modern Cambodia is really one of survival, of healing, and of living alongside the ghosts of its past. While the road back has been incredibly long and really hard, even after a Vietnamese invasion ended the genocide, Years of civil war and instability followed. It actually wasn't until the 1990s that a fragile peace finally took hold, allowing the country to begin the slow, painful process of rebuilding itself.
And this brings us to the strange reality of Cambodia today. You've got millions of tourists walking through those majestic temples of Angkor, a symbol of that ancient glory. But they are standing in a country that is profoundly scarred by a trauma that is still so recent.
And in the end, that really is the story of Cambodia. It's a country of impossible extremes. Its magnificent stone temples have stood for 1,000 years, a testament to what we are capable of building. But in the fields and in the villages, there's a profound silence that remembers what we are capable of destroying. And it's a tragedy that didn't happen in the distant past, but in our own lifetimes.